Hello YouTube, sorry I haven't made a video in like a year. If you're new, my name is Sam and I've made videos about half a dozen other things, but the bulk of my work that has been popular at least has been about running, and specifically has been about the success of people like Eliud Kipchoge in marathon running. And I was really excited to make loads of videos in the build up to my experience running the London Marathon in 2020. But as we know, the world has fallen apart since then, and this today has motivated me. The news that we have around the London Marathon has motivated me today to pick up the camera and do something very unusual for me, which is rant, quite unscripted. I usually have my little book here and it's full of words, and that's how I like to do my videos. But today I've been so miffed at the news, to put it politely, that the 2022 London Marathon has been rescheduled from April to October, and to be honest, I want to give my 5 reasons why I think it's a load of shit. 5 main reasons as to why I think people are annoyed at it, it doesn't make a huge amount of sense, and it's generally really disappointing bad news. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I will bring you up to speed as quickly as I can. If you had a placement to run the April 2020 London Marathon, you were unable to do so because COVID kicked in and ruined the world. They delayed that race originally from its April date to October, and then as the world started to really get bogged down with COVID, it became apparent they weren't going to be able to do that race in the traditional format, so they offered up a virtual race, and if you had a placement, you could run it and get given one of these bad boys here, which is a London Marathon 2020 medal. Even though you didn't technically have to run it all in one go, you could break it up into little bits and pieces, which is what I did. Moving forward, if you had the option to run in 2020 through charity, through ballot, through whatever your circumstance was, you were then given some new options. And those options were to delay your placement to October 2021, so that is imminently looming around the corner as I record this in August. They delayed the 2021 London Marathon because they wanted to give everybody the best opportunity to run in a mass participation event. And seeing how the world has kind of played out with COVID, certainly in the UK, I do think that was the right choice to make. So now, if you chose that option, you're probably really getting ready to either train, or you're fully in training mode now, and the best of luck to you. The next option was the one that I personally chose, which was to run in April 2022. Now, I chose that because I like the idea of running in April. I'm a traditionalist when it comes to the London Marathon, and overall I think I prefer training in those colder months more so than training in the warmer months, and as a result that was my motivation. The other thing as well is that when you look at it on paper, the difference between running it in October versus running it in April, that 6 months is fairly negligible in that kind of context, so that's the reason that I chose that one. The third option was that you could play safe rather than sorry, and you could delay your placement all the way to 2023, but for me, I'm a little impatient, didn't want to do that, and so chose to go a year early. They have assured us that the 2023 marathon will be going ahead in the traditional April date. Now, what has got me ranting and raving in front of camera today for the first time in a year? Well, it is actually this Instagram post from the London Marathon. And this post announces to the world today that the London Marathon is going to be moving dates again. Save the date, it proudly says, like a wedding invitation. For the 3rd successive year, the London Marathon will take place in October. Link for the full story. Not much of a description, simply one little picture with the date on it and a picture of Tower Bridge. That's it. There was no email, there's been no kind of foreshadowing, there's not really been much of an explanation. And I think a lot of confusion around this and a lot of anger has been echoed first and foremost in the comments section. I'm going to read out a few in a moment, but this is what's kind of motivated me to get mad, and I'm going to give you my 5 main reasons as to why I think it's a load of shit. Here we go. Number 1 is it doesn't really seem to be in line with everything else that's going on. Now let me explain that. In the UK specifically, we've had our lockdown, and then our unlock, and then our next lockdown, and then we even had a 3rd lockdown, and it has been a bit back and forth, and it's all been a bit politically charged, and obviously it's been unpleasant. However, The good news is that as we've rolled into the summer months, the Junes and the Julys, generally things have started to open up again. And that is echoed in all walks of life with the number of guests that can go to weddings. Shops have all been able to open up. You can go to the pub and have a beer inside. You've been able to do all of those things. Furthermore, football stadiums, shopping centres, those areas that deal with big crowds have really started to welcome people back. And we saw that with the Euros, and just this weekend, the first few games of the football season are starting to take a hold and their stadiums are filling up. It's great. And the forecast moving forward is that is how it's going to stay. And yet, we're being told now that a race that's happening not this year, but next year, has suddenly got to be delayed for another 6 months. And it just feels a bit unusual. And I think you can understand that it's a pretty mixed message in the respect of we're starting to see things like festivals are coming back. Latitude Festival, which is actually up the road from where I live, took place recently. Football stadiums are opening up and the big crowds are coming back. I know that organising a big city event that has to shut down roads and things is a lot different from a specific venue that's, you know, built to cope with capacities of people. But you can obviously see why it's confused people. Second thing, number two, is that this whole thing feels completely out of the blue. Generally, the news has been really positive. They've been sending emails saying, like, we're going to be welcoming you back into the streets of London. Been doing athlete profiles on social media, explaining all the elites that are going to be there, and that's all great to see. It's all been good news. And for them to then not send an email, for them to not post anything through the door, I personally am running with a charity, and I haven't heard from them yet. It just seems like they've just announced this on Instagram and then kind of just thrown it out there and just seen how people react for a little bit. I personally would have been a lot less irritated had they have at least let a few other events play out first and then maybe put we think we're going to have to delay, we understand that's not what you want to hear, but we think we might have to do it. Please stay on hold. But they haven't done that, and I think that's what's really, really annoyed people and made it feel so out of the blue. It's tricky because when things were really unclear last year, the London Marathon delayed and delayed and delayed to what their official announcement was going to be, and in the end they then put on the virtual marathon, like I said earlier. And I think what they've done here is they've just said, right, we're going to make the call early, line in the sand, red pen and a ruler, that is done. But this time I think they could have allowed just a little bit of foreshadowing and a little bit of warning just to kind of make that a slightly softer emotional blow rather than people that are just waking up, scrolling through their phone after lunch and seeing that they've been put back another 6 months. 3, and this is another big one for me. I know they're all big because it's only a 5-thing video, but what is the difference between 2021 and 2022? Come on. Has somebody just decided that actually it's a lot more convenient to run the marathon in October? Have the City of London or whoever charges the marathon to shut down roads and things given them a discount or something? It seems a little strange to me because if you read through their announcement, they obviously just say, oh, it's an uncertain world, and they talk about all the uncertainty. But very quickly they try and bring you back round to the success story of 2021, which is that they're going to have 50,000 runners in London and that they're going to have 50,000 people doing the stupid virtual event too. The London Marathon recently has always been a 40,000 participation event. So suddenly in London, when we're going to be closer to the pandemic, so to speak, I know obviously we can't say that, but you know what I mean, closer to things than we are next year, and yet you've increased the capacity of the number of people that can run. Furthermore, my charity each actually said to me in the build-up to the 2020 race that I was first supposed to be running, that the amount of places they have has actually been reduced. So all of a sudden now, you're saying it's coming back bigger and better than ever, and you're increasing the number of places, but surely the only reason you're delaying it officially is because you want that safety option. It's all to do with safety. But it doesn't add up, in my opinion. If you're going to run this huge participation event in October, surely you can run it again in April. Maybe they're just budgeting for a big mess up at Christmas, but who knows? It just seems a bit strange to me that if you can do one, Why can't you stick to your promise and do the other? Number 4, there's a lot of money and investment kind of involved in this. Now, let me explain how I mean by that. Investment is not just financial, it's also emotional and time. I was scrolling through some of the comments earlier, and the emotional investment seems to be from people that are immensely confused. Let me see if I can find some comments to read out. Shame it's not in April, shame it's not in April. Confusion, wait, does this mean that it's not happening in April? I deferred my 2020 spot so I could do it in April 2022, not October. Now I have to wait even longer for it to actually happen? Boo, I prefer winter training, that's why I deferred. Wait, is there another in April 2022? I much prefer training in the winter rather than the summer. I already postponed my event, postponed. This is a perfect example here. Time to move the hotel again, and if you click on the replies, it explains that this person who's commented has had to move their hotel booking 5 times. So that's one side of it, is the time aspect and the emotional aspect. People have obviously booked time off work, their partners and families and friends may have booked time off work to go and see them run and to help them do these, things that you need to do to actually facilitate the running of the marathon. You also have people's money with hotels. If somebody says, I'm not giving you a refund, you know how it goes. This is potentially really difficult for some people. And then also the money that has actually been raised for charities at the moment. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm happy to admit I'm wrong, but I don't think that money has actually been released to charities. And for me, as somebody who got a charity placement, I feel a bit concerned that I'll have taken money from people. I haven't actually participated in the event that I told them I was going to. I'm now going to have to wait another 6 months on top of what I've already told people I'm going to be doing, just out of the blue like that today. I'm going to have to tell them another 6 months. And yet they're probably going to have forgotten about it, and that journey of me going back and saying, do I ask them for more money, or have the charity already got the money? Do you see what I mean? Like, it feels a bit uncomfortable that there's potentially quite a lot of money just sitting there that hasn't actually had anything done to it. And to be honest, I don't want to be cheeky and ask people for more if they've already contributed to my fundraising. And I think there's going to be a lot of people that feel that way but haven't necessarily mentioned it on their Instagram posts yet. And number 5, it's a huge emotional blow. For me, I've poured so much into the marathon, and I'd like to hope that some of my passion for running and these sorts of events has actually come across in the way that I've made my previous videos. A few of my thoughts and feelings can actually be summarised quite well in messages that I've sent to people whilst this announcement has been made today, and I'd like to read those out now. One of which is, it's a shame because it's been a lifelong dream of mine to run the marathon, and now I just feel like, let's get it out of the way and get it behind me. And that's a really horrible thought to have around something that you've always wanted to do. It feels like I'm just sort of casting it aside. And obviously, on the day when I first step onto that start line and then put myself through it, I'm going to be buzzing. I know I will be. But you can understand why that right now that doesn't make me want to train. It doesn't want to make me jump out of bed. It doesn't want to make me have that same interaction with the race that I fantasize so much about. It just makes it feel like a chore, frankly. And that's not a nice way to feel right now. I will get over it, but my original plan was to actually start training soon to run a half marathon for October, keep the fitness level good over Christmas, and then really ramp up after Christmas towards April. And now all of a sudden there's another 6 months in there. It's over a year until the actual event. So that kind of lurking April date in my mind is no longer relevant, and that's sad. Another comment that was said by a friend of mine, Jack, shout out, I think if you had a placement to run, you'll be feeling exactly the same as this, especially if you're like me and some of the commenters I've read out that have deferred their placements. The worst bit is that they offered runners a choice last year, and now that choice doesn't exist, and it's too late to accept the first option. Bang on, Jacko. If they'd have said to me last year, you can run in 2021 October, or you can run in 2022 October, I'd have chosen 2021 because I want to get it out of the way and I want to get it done with. But instead, I had hope, and they say hope is a dangerous emotion because frankly, now I'm feeling disappointed again. Just before we go, number 6, bonus round. I've just thought of something else, and that is that this actually makes it clash with a few other events, which is a bit inconsiderate, to be honest. I know that rules around travel and things like that are going to be in different... I know that rules around travelling and things aren't necessarily the easiest to work out at the moment, but by doing this event now, you've actually kind of clashed with two other major marathon events, and it is completely foreseeable, or it's completely understandable that you could, in theory, maybe run London in April and then maybe go and run Berlin in September, or even maybe Chicago, which I believe is in October as well. But now, because of how they've delayed it, it means that certain people, even some of those international overseas runners, which I think they're keen to get back because I think they have to pay more money, a lot of those people are now going to have to make a choice and might not be able to run that sort of schedule that they originally had planned. So that's actually a bit of a sort of a short sight, is that for people that really care about the sport and people who want to arrange their calendar in a certain way, they're probably not going to be able to do it. So bonus round, number 6, it's going to clash with other events, which is crappy. That is what I have to say. Like I say, it really kind of riled me up, the fact that there was nothing else. I've just seen this and that's that. Job done. I'll tell you what they could have done. The Vitality Big Half, the half marathon, is actually this coming Sunday, the 22nd of August, as I record this on the 17th. So it's literally this week. What they could have done is they could have used that event that's being run in the city as an opportunity for the people that arrange London Marathon events, and for the Mayor of London, and for the people, the institutions, the businesses, everything that goes into the infrastructure of an enormous event like a marathon or a half marathon, to really flex their muscles and say, we will get this right, and show off that, bang, big racing events in cities are back. But they couldn't even wait to do that. They couldn't even wait to get that out the way, because had it been a horror story and then they'd said, actually things went a bit haywire in the half marathon, we think we need to delay it, fair play. Like, you know, you've got tangible proof. But if everything goes swimmingly on Sunday, it's not a good look. And if you don't think that's necessarily good logic, then maybe apply that to October this year. What if they just said, right, we're going to wait until October's done, we're going to do a like-for-like event, and let's see how it goes. Again, it would have been a key opportunity for everybody to show off what they could do and how successful or unsuccessful the event was. By that point, you'd have still had 6 whole months in order to make those decisions. Realistically, 6 months is not going to interrupt people's training and things like that. You had the opportunity. But it just feels a little bit like they've jumped the gun. There's been no opportunity for it to be a bit flexible. I hope you all understand what I mean, and I hope that you found this video interesting and somewhat engaging. I would love to know what you as a runner, or you as somebody who knows people that are involved in this event, think. Is it a massive inconvenience? Are you actually thankful for it? Naturally, I've been reading out all the kind of negativity that I think reinforces my opinion, but let me know yours. It would be good to start a conversation, and maybe if we're lucky, we'll get a response for the London Marathon explaining themselves a little bit more. So you know what to do. Leave comments. Again, if you're new, my name is Sam. I do make running videos and I do go for runs, and I've created podcasts about running with my friend Kieran in the past, and I will try and get back onto it. But thank you so much for this, and I will speak to you again soon.